and deadlines. We'll just figure it out. So,
Right.
yeah, great. We'll get started. Well, welcome back to the Authenticity Calling podcast. I am your host, Relitza Spasova. It is so great to be here with you. And I'm just going to circle back to the purpose of this podcast. I heard something earlier today, and it was very much about being intentional. So I want to be very intentional and share a little bit about the purpose and impact of the podcast. I originally started the podcast to share my new and authentic connections with people. After every conversation I had, I always thought to myself, wow, that would have been such a great podcast. So I've actually gone with that energy and started a podcast for all the new cool and amazing people that I meet in my world, just to bring it up into the ether for whoever is meant to hear this conversation. And today I'm so excited to welcome to the podcast Jennifer Demiri. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Jennifer, you are a business consultant and leadership coach. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So
Amazing.
my business is called JD Consulting, and I am based in Australia. I'm currently in Adelaide, recently moved to Adelaide from the beautiful sunny Gold Coast. And in Adelaide, it's a little bit colder.
Okay.
Pretty cold morning today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a business consultant, a leadership coach. My background is in corporate hospitality. Then during COVID, I started my own business as mainly a coach to begin with. And then I did NLP coaching as well, did a certificate in neuro-linguistic programming and utilized that in my coaching practice. And yeah, went back to a little bit of the strength of mine in business consulting, supporting businesses with their strategies and communicating better with their teams, and really for businesses to realize that their most important and highest value asset are actually their people.
Hmm.
And yeah, helping them to realize that, and also helping people to realize what it is that they want out of life and how that can be combined as well.
Amazing. Wow, that's amazing. You know what? Coming from the corporate space, I also work in corporate, and it's really interesting because within our team, we have a very sort of um, it's almost like a spiritual dynamic. Everybody's there doing their best in the way that they know how, and we really are able to shine our gifts. But I know that that's not true for a lot of people. And I know that, people have to kind of compartmentalize. They have their hobbies where they do their passion thing, and then they have their career or their work where they just do the work. And so I get really excited when I meet with coaches and consultants and leaders in the space where we are actually making the most of people's passions, and we're bringing them to the surface. And that those curious questions that they have, or those visions that they might have, or wanting to push the envelope in a different direction, that's actually starting to be encouraged, which is really exciting, because people are bringing their passions and their gifts into work, which is, that to me, I mean, when I talk about transformational coaching, that is actually how you live a life that's passionate and purposeful and fulfilling and meaningful, when you're able to be that version of yourself, that authentic version of yourself. And I mean, we've talked in the past podcasts about layers of authenticity and how you can express in some areas and maybe not as, openly in others. But I think there is a level of authenticity that needs to shine in all the different areas. And if you feel that you can't be who you are, and you can't be in integrity with your values in your workplace, then that's not the place for you. You're never going to be happy there. You're always going to lead to burnout. And I mean, that's just, it's a very big red flag. So I'm very excited to hear about the work that you do. And yeah, tell us a little bit about the name of your company, I guess, and yeah, how you work with clients? How do they find you? How do you find them?
Yeah, sure. So JD Consulting, my initials, and I only did a rebrand last November into JD Consulting to go a bit more back into line with what I am doing now. So then when I was only doing the personal coaching, the name was a bit different. So last November, I then changed it to JD Consulting to, yeah, as you said earlier, with the intention, right? Having the intention and moving the intention over to JD Consulting with a different intention of the coaching and consulting that I do now moving forward. And yeah, one of the important things for me is really what you were saying, to help people to be their authentic self in the workplace. So in the past, there was like work gen, and then there was the private gen. And even in that, there were like different versions depending on who I was talking to, until I really figured out for myself who I want to be, remembering who I want to be and who I am, and then bringing that into the space. And now pretty much people get the same person if I'm working with clients, if I'm going out with friends, if I'm with family. So you get the same version in every different arena today. And back in the day, for example, there was so much company loyalty as well, right? And like people were in the same company for pretty much their entire life.
Yeah.
And that was because companies looked after their people. They did see their people as the highest value asset in the business.
Yeah.
And yes, the way they showed the love and care for their people is probably very different to what we today would understand as care for us, just because, you know, it has the goalpost has shifted to an extent, and the way we live these days has changed from 50 years ago, of course. So the transition is very different in that space. However, a lot of businesses, and I'm definitely not saying all businesses, but a lot of businesses, they do feel that people are replaceable. They say, well, okay, if that person resigns, I just get the next, actually not realizing the cost to them. Like, what would it be retaining someone, looking after them for in many different ways, be it financially, be it through a bit more work-life balance, be it you know, the flexibility of working from home when they have little ones. So they often say, oh, well, if this person rather wants to be with their children because we can't be flexible in letting them go home early to pick up the kids, or work from home on a day where the kids are unwell, no, we need someone in the office 24/7 pretty much,
Yeah.
then yes, they will lose the people, and that often costs them a lot more.
That's right.
Through hiring cost. Very often, when people ask for a pay rise, for example, companies are not willing to give the pay rise, but then the person leaves, and then the next person gets the same rate that the person had asked for initially. And then on top of that, you have the costs of rehiring, retraining,
That's right.
the potential loss of income or productivity from the person that is doing the onboarding, if the onboarding is done properly. So all those sort of things. And for me, it's really important to speak to businesses and make them realize how much value they already have in the business. And if they look after them, you know, they will stay. And they will actually perform even beyond your expectations if you look after them. And when I say look after them, I'm not talking about the pizza party once a
That's right.
year, something like that. It's actually getting to know your people. It's getting to know what is important to them. So for one person, it may be, you know what, if you look after me, that actually means for me being able to pick up my kids every day.
That's right.
And then maybe do a few hours from home for the rest of the day.
That's right.
So that is what for other people may be looking after. And then for someone, it's okay, I work best on a commission basis or bonuses with sales. So, okay, how can we make it in a way that it works for everyone and have that flexibility for everyone without someone feeling they're left out, and maybe creating a few different sort of bonus packages within the business where all of them have the same value, and you sort of pick which one you want as part of your contract.
That's really interesting. So like, because I think that for a lot of corporate companies, there's this part of fairness and equality. But I think what you said is really important, is that if you are truly being equitable, if you are truly honoring diversity and equitability, that to me is exactly what you said, is really taking the perspective of what are the individual people's needs. Because just like we don't all have the same learning style, just like we don't all enjoy the same communication style, we you know, different things will benefit different people. So I absolutely love that perspective. And I guess urging companies to be able to have the flexibility in their bonuses. That's a really, really great point. And something that you said too, it reminded me of, the relationships that we have, right? People leave marriages all the time because they're not willing to shift or change or do something different. And then in their new partnership, they end up doing exactly the things that their old partner wanted them to do. And so it's funny that that works also in the workplace, because you're absolutely right. I think when it comes to like bottom lines, and when it comes to, really thinking about it strategically, what is it going to cost you? It's the same thing I hear a lot in, even in sales. Like when we talk about, selling your offer, I don't like to think of sales. I used to work in optical sales, and it never felt greasy to me because I was supporting someone in being able to see better, right? To me, I was supporting them and I was offering a service, and we would have certain like discounts and offers that would make it affordable for almost everybody. And that to me was very much an integrity. And so very similarly, I move the same way in my business. Is I love to be able to support people, to offer great value. And when it comes to masterminds, to me, it's having a mastermind versus doing one-on-one coaching. There's a group elevation that happens in a mastermind, and it's just so juicy. And so when people think about the investment that they're making, it's like, what are you investing in? You're investing in yourself, and you're investing in transforming the person that you are. That changes your entire life. And there's truly no dollar amount that you can put on it. So I think it's the same thing with employees. And again, people don't think about what you're risking. And I learned this from a business coach who uses NLP. And I'm going to bring it to NLP, and just to let you like kind of dispel some of the myths. I have a lot of judgments around NLP, so I'm
Okay,
just going
great.
to hand it if that's okay with you.
Yeah, good. Go
Yeah,
for
so a
it.
lot of what I learned is basically like creating that emotion, right? Creating the emotion of where could you be with this support, right? Where do you see yourself with the support? And then it's like, and then you take it away and you're like, where do you see yourself not having the support a year from now, 2 years from now? And then it's almost creating this sense of like, this from a fearful place, like from a, to me, it feels a little bit out of integrity to create the vision for someone and then take it away and say, now that you know that you need me, you have to work with me. And I don't use that tactic. I don't use that strategy because I don't love that. I don't like making people feel like they're stuck without me, because I'm never giving someone a fish. I'm teaching them how to fish. I'm offering tools. I'm offering perspectives, but I'm really always bringing the power back to them. And that is my coaching strategy. That is my tool. That is my way of being with everyone. I'm just sharing my unconditional love, and I'm reflecting back the greatness that I see in my clients. And so when I look at the way that NLP can be used or is often used, I think in business and in sales, I really get the ick. Like I feel disgusting when I see that these types of sales tactics, there really are tactics, are being used in our conscious like in our conscious evolving space, in the space of conscious evolution, where we're uplifting humanity and when we're supporting humanity. And how could we? And at the same time, I can see the point in it and I can see the value, because if you truly are supporting someone to change their life, sometimes it does take that like come to truth moment where you say, but it is real, right? Where would you be a year from now if you didn't have support? And it doesn't have to be my support. It can be anyone else's support. But are you willing to do the work to transform yourself? Yes or no? And then are we a good fit? That I can get in line with, even though I don't love using people's emotions to really make them feel like they need it. So yeah, curious what your thoughts are on that. And
No,
then we'll
I
shift
love
into
that
NLP.
perspective. No, I really love that perspective, and there's absolutely a huge component that I agree with you. So this manipulative way of using NLP, that gives me the ick as well.
Yeah.
So of course, when I talk to people and sort of say, okay, where would you be a year from now without using this? The way I would use it, which I actually don't use, but the way I would use it is more towards like, okay, so for years and years and years, you've been saying you're making this change. However, you haven't actually actioned anything.
That's right.
So with having someone that helps you to be accountable, that you have to sort of, that you're actually investing in yourself, you're not investing in me. You're investing in yourself. So at the end of the day, you are now having someone that supports you, that is your accountability partner to an extent, and a shoulder to lean on and support you through things that you're going through to get you to the next step.
Yes.
However, at the end of the day, we have all the tools within us. We actually have all the tools within us. And sometimes we just need that little bit of help of someone to help you uncover what is within you.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and again, to that question of the ego with the NLP, the challenge is that a lot of people use it. Marketing on TV, like your TV commercials.
Oh yeah.
It's used everywhere. So
Yeah.
from that point of news, it's used in the news all the time as well. So from that point of view, there's a manipulation 24/7
Yeah.
every day of the week.
Yeah.
And it's just so unconscious to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when now someone actually comes to genuinely want to support, then yes, that can be a little bit of a challenge. And often it's not necessarily the ego of, oh, they're wanting to sell me something. It's sort of like, oh, when I do this, I actually have to do the work. I can't just
Yes.
talk about it.
Yeah. I
So
have to
that is
face the triggers. I have to face the challenges. I have to
correct.
actually do the work to turn it around.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is often more that feeling that comes out,
Yeah.
that a lot of people feel like, oh no, they're selling me something, I'm going to run
Yes.
away. No, it's actually like you're getting confronted with, yeah, I've been talking about this for years and I actually haven't done anything about it. And this person is now pointing out that I have never done anything about it. They're calling me out
Yes.
my own BS. And
Yeah.
you know, now I probably have to do something if I invest into that
That's
person.
right. That's
And
right.
again, for me, it is like people either want to work with me or they don't want to work
Yeah.
with me. I have a great track record with the clients I have in personal coaching as well as in the business world.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my coaching is at the moment, or consulting, is word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So besides my Instagram and my LinkedIn, there, and I do have a landing page. Besides that, I don't do much advertising on it.
Yeah.
It's all word of mouth, but they all see the value in it. And I have my own coaches as well. And one of my coaches reminded me recently as well, because I was saying, like, I didn't do anything special. I was just me.
Yes.
And she was like, yeah, that's all you have to be in
That's the
order
point.
to get the success, right? And it's like, oh yeah, you're right. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what I'm telling my clients.
Yeah.
However, someone had to remind me as well. So it's not that just that I coach people or do consulting with people. I have my own support system. I have my own people that keep me accountable.
That's right. Yeah, and
And
remind you of your greatness. And
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's there's a really important point is I always ask, I always tell people, you don't have to work with me, but now that you have a vision of what life could be,
Yeah.
go and interview other coaches and see what is the best fit for you, but make sure that they are doing their work. Make sure that they are actually not going to eventually be triggered by, one of the things that comes up for you and project onto you a limitation, because that is what happens if we don't do our own work. Naturally, life is a mirror. We will always attract people that have things that we also resonate with, right? That have been triggers for us maybe in the past that we've worked through partially or completely. That's how the universe works. That's how when we talk
Correct.
about attraction, law of attraction, that's just how life works. And so it's interesting to hear how many coaches, I do some outreach to connect with people, and I have a Facebook group for women only to connect. And there's a lot of coaches and healers and consultants and people in this space. It's interesting to me how it's actually not very often, but how some people respond to, why would I want to join your Facebook group? I have my own. And it's like, Well, because we all
Love
need
to.
a safe space to go and not have
Yeah.
to have, have to be that take the responsibility to hold that safety, and in mine specifically, I don't do it alone. I have three other women and we're all holding the container together because it is a lot of energy to manage and it is a big calling. And if
Yeah.
you don't have someone to call you forward to remind you of your greatness, we're human. We're going to have those moments where, we're in our shadow or we have a trigger and we're not ready to show up fully clean and ready to hold space. So I think it's so important and valuable, and I love that you share that. And
Mhm.
um yeah, it's an evolution. Like, it's such a beautiful evolution in the coaching space, and the consulting space
Yeah.
has taken on, I think, a whole new spirit. And that's what I love about coaching, is that it's constantly evolving as well.
Yeah.
And that's really, really exciting. Yeah, I'm so curious. What is your magic sauce? Like, what is the thing that you bring to what is JD Consulting, and how is it different from all the other consulting companies or firms?
Yeah. For me, it's bringing my experience. Oh, that just gives me
Yeah.
goosebumps, actually.
The
For
truth
me, it's
chills. Yeah.
bringing my experience as an employee
Yeah.
as well as my experience as a leader.
Hmm.
Like, there was a time where I was actually a really bad leader. And I kept asking my leader, so what do I have to do to be a good leader? What do I have to do? Like, I read all these books, I've done all of this, and I'm doing and I'm doing and I'm doing. And no one could ever give me the answer
Mm.
until I realized I just have to be. I just have to be. I just have to be who I am and
Yes,
let my true self shine through rather than trying to be someone that I'm not.
that's right.
And that's what I bring into the space. I'll bring into the space teaching people how to be their authentic self, how
Yeah.
to be empowered being who they are, actually figuring out what is success to you and how can you bring that into your everyday,
Mm.
bring that into the workspace, and so on and so forth. And then just be yourself,
Mm.
do the things that you're passionate about. And you know what? If that actually means leaving the job, then that's okay too,
Yeah.
because you would never give your 100%.
Yes.
But then also for the companies to realize as well, okay, yes, this is the vision of the company. How do I communicate that to my teams in
Mm.
a way that they can see themselves as part of the vision?
Mm-hmm. That's
And
right.
also, when I go into a company, I'm not only working with the frontline teams or the leadership teams, I'm working with the person at the top as well
Yeah.
to break down some of their walls and actually realize what it is that they want
Yes.
and where they see things go. And
Yeah.
how can we now combine all of this that's here with all of this that's here and bring it all onto the same level?
Wow.
And Gary Vee said something at one point, your employees or team will never be as invested into the business as you are as the business owner. And that is true because, yes, they go there and they get their wage and they do something that they're passionate about. However, as the business owner, it's your baby.
Mm.
Like, if you do compare it with a family, like, yes, I love my nieces and nephews. I don't have any, but like, I love my nieces and
Yeah.
nephews. However, I will never love them as much as I would love my own child.
Mm. That's interesting. That's an
It's a
interesting
different type of
perspective.
love. It's maybe not like not as much, it's a different type of love.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
different type of love that I have for a romantic partner versus a great friend versus my niece versus my mother. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all love, but it's a different type of love.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
how can we move that into the business world in a way that I do have the engagement from the team, that I do share my love for the business with them and show them what it actually means to be and allowing that vulnerability in,
Mm.
so that they can see that I'm human as well as a business owner.
Yeah.
And that will actually allow them to have a lot more buy-in and see the space in a different way as well, and are more willing to do things or be things
Yeah.
in the business.
Yeah.
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 So
I
that's
really,
me. I'm bringing in my passion, my experience, and at the end of the day, just get the essence out of the people and bring them from the inside to the outside.
yeah.
Like show them how to shine as their own
Mm.
individual self.
That's so juicy. And thank you for sharing, first of all, your personal transformation as well as how you see a company as a family. And it's really, really
Mm.
true is a company is, I mean, some people spend more time with, their work colleagues
Yeah,
than they do their own family members. So
absolutely.
it's a big investment of people's time and energy and capacity. So to see it as, raising a baby together, I think to me, when I think about and maybe it's unique to the company that I work in, and it's a really beautiful space. I'll be very honest. Like because of everybody's passion and commitment to the vision, and I think vision sharing is something that's so important. It's sharing that, in a way, sharing that love that you have for,
Yeah.
what your goals are, what your, maybe it's around KPIs, but they should all come from values. And they should
Yeah.
be grounded in what are we actually changing, transforming, supporting, providing. Every company has some sort of output, right? That's why they're around. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I just think it's so important. I want to honor the divine feminine in you. That was just so fully seen and recognized when you realize that, being so much of that like masculine energy. So I'll just separate it out for everyone here who hasn't maybe heard one of my podcasts before, but when we talk about energy, all of us have masculine and feminine energy within us. And when we talk about the masculine, it's more of that doing energy. It's more of the structure. It's more of the planning and organizing. And a lot of us have a lot of the masculine energy, especially in our generation. In order to achieve something, we've forced ourselves into the masculine. And I read a little bit about this in my chapter of Beyond Coincidence. It's actually coming out May 1st. I'm just going to plug it really quickly because I'm so excited. But
Yes.
then there's the feminine, right? The feminine is that essence, that connection to our intuition, that ability to let it all go and just be, to fall back and to take a beat, to just take a pause and really notice and observe what's going on. And just in that energy, just in that presence, just in that space of holding safety, everyone is able to rise. And it's exactly that. It's taking ourselves out of that masculine energy of constantly doing, constantly achieving, constantly looking at measurables, especially qualitative or quantitative measurables, and really falling back and seeing what are my people like, what's energetically going on here?
Yeah.
How can I support what's energetically going on here? How can I, just what's the essence of the company? You said essence as well, bringing the essence of everyone together. You can't measure essence unless you are in the feminine.
Yeah.
So I honor you so much for that because I think it's definitely something that's missing, especially in corporate companies. And it is starting to rise. The consciousness is starting to evolve. We're starting to wake up to the power of that beautiful balance of the masculine and the feminine. And so when we talk about even divine union, we're talking about the balance of our own masculine and feminine energies. It has nothing to do with another person. It has
Yeah.
first to do with us. So oh, that's so juicy and so exciting
Yeah.
that you're bringing it into corporate because yes,
Yeah.
like it's a new world. It is really truly going to be, if I hope for our children, if not us
Yeah.
even, it's a new way of existing and being in our work.
Yeah. And while you were talking about the masculine in the workplace and the feminine and being forced into it,
Yeah.
there's like a whole book that I could write on it.
You
Just
should.
in well, I'm touching on it in the same book that you're in regards
That's
to
right.
success.
That's right.
However, yeah, the whole masculine, feminine, and being as a woman often forced into the masculine in the corporate world. Look, this is a whole book, and this is a whole nother podcast because there are so many things that led to this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll leave that for another time. Of
Yay. Okay. Well, we're going to record about the book as well. But are you open to sharing anything about your chapter?
course, a little smidgen,
Just a little
a
bit.
tiny little smidgen. Everyone
Yes,
that wants to know more has to read it.
that's right.
Um, but I am talking a little bit about success.
Okay.
So what success means to me, what success used to mean to me based on the external that was around me. And that probably is around a lot of other people. So how do you define success as an individual? And what made you actually believe that this particular thing that you think is success is success?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking a bit about the origin of the word, where it actually came from. And the word success in the etymology, so the etymology is the origin of a word. So when was it first used, and so on and so forth, and how has it evolved over the years? And you can just Google etymology and then put the word in it, and then you can find out where the word comes from. However, with the word success, it actually, part of the meaning is happiness.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so part of the original meaning of success is happiness. So I talk in the book, in my chapter, a little bit about my transformation or my redefinition from what success used to be to what it is now. And then I'll again incorporate a little bit into the corporate world in that chapter as well. And then I'll combine at the end both sides.
Wow, that's exciting. I'm excited to read your section too. So this is really, this is a whole, you've opened up a whole other wormhole for me.
You're
You call it a
welcome.
rabbit hole. For me, it's a wormhole. Like we're transforming things in this space. That's so interesting. So even happiness, like how do we define happiness? You know, that question comes up. What do you define as happiness? Do we even, again, I think so much of happiness has to do with, are we really taking ourselves back into our present moment to experience the joy and bliss of what's happening right now? Like this to me makes me so happy. And we wouldn't think about it, right? Like a lot of people, as soon as we redefine, and this is where I get a little bit concerned about bringing our passions to the workplace, because I think as soon as people redefine something that they're passionate about as work, they lose the passion because they're not present in the moment, getting the joy out of the experience. It now becomes a deliverable. So I think the culture of work has to shift in order for us to truly be able to love every part of our life. And maintain that passion and maintain that level of commitment, but also success truly in the real definition of happiness. It's like, yes, now it comes full circle. Now I don't look at the word success and cringe. I can look at the word success and actually, you know, get down with it again. I love that. And it's funny because the group that I started, it's the Sexy Successful Sisterhood. And that's exactly what it is. Like people think, oh, sexy is like all about sex. It has nothing to do with the act of having sexual relations. It's actually the essence of the way that every woman should feel in her body, in herself. It's like that way of just vibing with your passions and your purpose, and just really being in that essence of service, and that being so juicy and fulfilling, and just like waking up, not being able to not be just excited for the day, you know, looking forward to all of these moments of connection. And anyway, beyond coincidence, I'm so excited to read your chapter.
I'm excited to read yours.
We went all over the place. So yeah, I'm curious in terms of in terms of your consulting work, if somebody hears this podcast and wants to find you to work with you, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, perfect. So they can either email me on jen@jdconsultingau.com.
Okay, and that's two N's or
Or
one N?
Two N's.
Two N's. Okay,
Sorry, no. So
Jen.
Jen is one N. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes. So jen@jdconsultingau.com.
Perfect.
Or they can find me on LinkedIn under Jennifer Demiri. So again, two N's, JENNIFER, and then last name DEMIRI. On LinkedIn, or j.d.consulting on Instagram.
Perfect. And we'll link it all in the show notes when the podcast launches. So that's excellent. Thank you for sharing. And I wonder if you have any, whether it's like 5 tips or key takeaways or something that you want to leave the audience with, whether it's a business owner, a CEO, maybe it's a person that's working at a company that would love to see these kind of changes happening in their own company. What would you say to them? How do they even get started? Yeah, what should they be thinking about? Or yeah, what's your gift to them?
Yeah, so for me, one of my top tips is start with yourself. Start to look at yourself and look at what success is to you. And are you actually happy with what you do and how you do it? Are you in integrity with yourself? Are you in alignment with yourself? Are you practicing what you preach? And then as soon as you've started the work on that, that's when you can bring it out into the other spaces.
Beautiful, beautiful. So coming from a space of introspection and really
Yes.
truly personal development. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Because there is a concept where it pretty much says like everything that is outside of you is a reflection of what's going on inside of you.
That's right.
So going back a little bit from the beginning of the podcast when you were talking about the triggers, right?
Yeah,
So sometimes someone can say or do something that triggers you in some particular way.
that's right.
And that is often because that's something that you haven't worked on from within, and that's why it's triggering you. So when you start to do the work on yourself and make the changes for yourself first, sometimes the change outside happens nearly automatically.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for mentioning that. And Jen, the one thing that comes to mind for me is really the way that the leaders in my company, I think the reason why it's so successful is because they lead with vulnerability and transparency and they call others in. So instead of calling people out, they call them in, and they can do that because they start with themselves. They can
Yeah.
do that because they lead with doing that, and sometimes it is hard work. Like sometimes it is
Yeah.
challenging to face our triggers and all the things, but
Mm.
it's harder to maintain the resistance. So I know we talk about triggers and the work that it takes and all of that, but I promise everyone out here that's listening, some people don't do the work because of the fear of
Yeah.
what it takes to get through the work. But I promise you, you're spending more time and energy maintaining the resistance instead of
Yeah.
just doing the thing that will
Yeah.
make your life so juicy, like so,
Yeah.
so good, so
Yeah.
fulfilling, so rewarding.
Yeah.
And yes, we attract similar. If we have this trigger or if we have this opportunity to evolve, so do our employees. And so by doing that evolution and bringing that personal development work into the workplace, I think when we talk about health spending has increased so much in companies because they are realizing the value of
Mm.
having personal development as part of their professional development in their company. I think that in and of itself, like we talk about bonuses and we talk about vacations and we talk
Mm.
about flexible work schedules and working from home or, being able to pick up and drop off your kids. But I think something that a lot of companies are starting to recognize is the value and the power of having an external person, whether it's a coach or consultant or whatever that looks like, come into the workplace and be able to support that individual and also group transformation and address the elephant in the room and address the things that maybe sometimes people wouldn't bring to work, but they're carrying around all the time that they
Yeah.
get to transform in that space. That makes their work so much more productive. I don't have numbers, but I just know that companies have skyrocketed their outputs and their
Yeah.
productivity simply by bringing in a coach or consultant to do that work. And it doesn't
Yeah.
even have to be about the work. The focus can be, what do you do after work? What's bothering you at home? What
Yeah.
keeps you up at night? And being able to transform those things has just had such an impact. So just want to remind everybody that the work is actually a lot more palatable. It's a lot easier to
Yeah.
to do than maintaining the resistance, than being in this uncomfortable space where you're just ignoring. Like ignorance is not bliss. We've outgrown that.
Yeah.
We don't have
And
to do
also
that
from
anymore.
an energy perspective, I personally have so much energy. I was recently supporting on a project and I had 4 hours sleep for a week, 4 hours sleep maximum each
Wow.
night.
Yeah.
But I was so full of energy, and that was because I've done so much work on myself to, let go of the things that would hold me back, that
Yes.
are draining my energy,
Yeah.
and worked within that space of passion and doing what I love and being my authentic self.
Yes. Yes. I write about that. So I'm actually also writing an entire book. It's sort of like a coach in a book. And it starts with
Mm,
talking about passion. Like my method of transformation is P3 alchemy. It's passion, purpose,
mhm.
potential. But
Yeah,
passion, I think we really don't understand the value and the capacity of doing something we're passionate about, because you're
yeah,
right, that actually has its own energetic force of creating energy. They say
yeah,
energy can't be created or destroyed, but I question that, because when it comes to passion, it's like there is so much energy there, and it
mm,
taps into that universal life force that,
yeah,
manifestation, yes, but even more powerful in the feminine is that magnetism. As soon as you exist in your passion, everything just starts to come
yeah,
together, and you can't make that up. Like it doesn't. And so,
that's right.
anyways, that's a whole other podcast. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Well, it was so great to be with you today. Thank you so, so much, Jen. And you know what? I'm going to stop this recording, and then we're going to hop on another recording to talk about the book, which I'm really excited about.
Sounds good.
And I'll also post in the show notes once that's launched so everybody can
All right.
take a look at that. But thank you
Wonderful.
so
Thanks for
much.
having me and letting me share.
It was so wonderful. Yes, and we will definitely have to do this again.